All right. Yeah, very excited to give this little opening to what has been a very, very interesting topic that I think everyone in this room understands the effect of on. That's with GLP-1s and the impact that they've made. So I'm excited to kick that off. Firstly, just so you know, I had a issue with my wrist. I think it's from working a little too hands-on, perhaps. So my team loves that one. But that's not why we're here. Let's talk about GLP-1. So before I do that, I want to give a little bit of background on us and what we do before we go into some of the analysis. So Guidepoint Qsight is a division of Guidepoint Global. We are a global research firm. My group, Qsight, focuses on providing data market intelligence for key markets within healthcare, med device, med tech, and of course medical aesthetics. I'm going to be talking today, kind of setting the stage for some of the work that we've done, particularly with GLP-1s in medical aesthetics practices. I'm going to be drawing from some of our solutions that we have. The first two that are listed there are derived from data that we collect through partnerships directly with practices that represents around $2.5 billion in spend in 2024, around 1 million patient visits. So it gives us a really great baseline to do the type of analysis that we do. So excited about that. Of course, we have relationships directly with practitioners in the space to gather qualitative insights and context. And then lastly, I'm excited about some of the analysis, particularly in this category, that we'll be able to do from some of our census level data that we get from on 40,000, more than 40,000 practices in the US. So for more information on that, we're here in the back, excited to have a presence here. But let's get into the reason why I'm up here. So GLP-1, so from our estimates here, you can see this is over the past few years. This is the amount of patient spend in practice and the trend that's had over the past few years. Now, really significant, as you can tell, the graph kind of speaks for itself. But just to put this in further context, in 2024, this amount of patient spend was greater than the patient spend on professional-grade skincare. It was greater than the spend on non-EBD skin resurfacing type treatments. So it became a very key driver of patient spend in 2024. In terms of the practices that offer this, I mean, this aligns pretty well with the presentation we saw earlier with BCG in terms of the number of practices that offer GLP-1s. As you can see here, it's increased. It might will continue to increase, although we'll see with the regulatory environment. So it's close to 60% of med spas in our panel had GLP-1 or offered GLP-1s, and physician offices were still increasing, but not quite to the level of med spas. We did mention, and one of the outputs that we saw from our analysis was how practices that offered GLP-1s versus those that did not in 2024. Those that did offer them grew on average, and those that did not contracted, which was, I think, very telling and very interesting to understand the impact of this within the industry. With that impact, I want to talk about a few key areas that we found and that we've been looking at. That's GLP-1s, the competition with body contouring, and how that's affected that category. I think been challenging, but I think there's long-term opportunities I'll get to in a moment. Also, competition for discretionary income. So we do sort of share wallet analysis, and we've done some work where we've seen how while practice offering these medications does increase their revenue, it does come at the expense of other categories. So there is some of that reshifting there. However, on the flip side, I think as we're all discussing today, we've heard multiple times, opportunities within aesthetics for some of the side effects and ways how GLP-1s can affect and actually create opportunities for aesthetic treatment. So Ozempic face, loose sagging skin, and I think the key one I want to dive into is the gateway to aesthetics. And I think this is what, as an industry, really wanted to try and see with this, is we have this entirely new group of patients coming in for these treatments. Is this something that they can move on to other treatments? So To go through this pretty quickly, interesting metric, we saw that of those GLP-1 patients in 2024, 4 out of 10 of them were first time into those aesthetic practices. So this brought them in, which I think is an interesting metric. And of that, only 24% of those new patients returned for another treatment within that subsequent year, which was kind of small, right? I think that is not where we'd want it to be, but we cross-checked the data, we looked again and saw that, yes, there was some of that entry point into other aesthetic practices, but it wasn't necessarily a very large driver. So I think as I set the stage for the future conversations here and the discussions, looking to hear what other folks have to say, but from our perspective, there's this untapped cohort of patients that are coming in for these treatments that have yet to move on or have not moved on to some of these other aesthetic treatment opportunities. So from us, we see that as a tremendous opportunity to position and have practices, work with practices to be able to identify and provide some of these treatments that can tie very well with those that are taking the GLP-1s, whether it's nutrition, whether it's fillers, whether it's some of the other skin tightening, even body contouring, as these patients go through their treatment. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to the next speaker, but wanted to set the stage here. I think it's incredibly exciting. The one thing I'll say is at our booth, we are putting out a white paper. We're diving into this pretty deeply, so please come by, sign up for that. The other thing I'll say is, as part of that, we're going to be tracking this space very, very closely this year. It's going to be incredibly interesting to see how this affects on the practice level. So if you're interested in that, please come by the booth, talk to us. We can discuss the perils of riding bikes in New York City if you'd like to. But with that, I'll hand it over. Thanks, everyone.